Welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be discussing an important debate. Today we'll be speaking about the inauguration of the 13th Africa Ministerial Cooperative Council, which was inaugurated today by Minister of Utilities, Housing and Urban Communities, Dr. Asim El Ghazar. During the inaugural session, Egypt received the presidency of Africa Ministerial Cooperative Council from Nigeria for the next 3 years, which coincides with Egypt's winning the hosting of the permanent headquarters of the African Organization for Housing Cooperative in Cairo, as well as hosting the regional office of the International Cooperative Alliance for the North Region, Africa in Cairo. The 13th Africa Ministerial Cooperative Council is launched under the title Together for Africa's Development, which is held for the first time in Egypt during the period from 17th till the 20th of October 2022. This all is under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Definitely few years, particularly the few past years, Egypt has taken the helm of taking Africa's sustainable development a prior file in its agenda, plans and programs put. Egypt has already started a big initiative for the housing and urban communities, changing it into a better living condition for people, and so did with Africa, or so it is working with Africa in this domain, which is the sustainable development, taking the helm of those initiatives to the African continent at large, particularly at this stage where the African continent is truly passing, or the whole world is truly passing through very critical times and many challenges, requiring from all the continent's member states to unite in order to be able to confront such challenges. This will be our episode tonight. Before we move on with our discussion, let me first take the top story of the day. And Egypt's Grand Mufti and President of the General Secretariat for the Fatwa Authorities Worldwide, Dr. Shawki Allam, inaugurated Egypt's Dar al-Ifta 7th International Conference titled Fatwa and Sustainable Development Goals. As part of his remarks, the Grand Mufti asserted that establishing the religious concept of sustainable development and highlighting its roots in the Quran and the Sunnah comes at the top of the conference objectives. Dr. Allam added that it is the religious institution's responsibility to carry out the duty of the hour with courage and stand up to any endeavor that may harm human progress and take man down a path other than what God has created him for. Before we start with our discussion, let me first take this report and we'll come back for more discussion.
The activities of Dar al-Ifta International Conference kicked off on Monday, organized by the Egyptian Dar al-Ifta under the umbrella of the General Secretariat of the Ifta houses and authorities bodies in the world. The two-day conference is titled Fatwa and Sustainable Development Goals. Mufti of the Republic and head of the General Secretariat of the Ifta houses and authorities in the world, Dr. Shawki Allam, said that sustainability is an integral and inseparable part of the concept of development in the Sharia, adding that this sustainability means meeting the needs of the present at all material and spiritual levels, without jeopardizing the ability and resources of future generations to satisfy their needs. Allam added in an opening speech at the conference that God Almighty has great purposes for His creation of humans, sending messengers and enacting laws. The most important of those goals and purposes is the construction of the universe. Dr. Allam also stressed that we are absolutely certain that the path to a real development process can only be achieved if the focus of that development is the human being himself. Hence, it must target that person and everything related to him religiously, culturally, economically, and socially. Perhaps this is what made sustainable development today the biggest concern that prominently present on the strategic planning tables of countries and governments. and reiterated that since the fatwa had a prominent role and an effective participation in all issues related to man and his development, the conference was launched in the context of highlighting the important role of the fatwa in achieving sustainable development and urbanization. Dr. Alem stressed that the bright areas that are emerging in the sky of Egypt in many fields, especially the development field, clearly announce the correct path that Egypt Vision 2030 is proceeding according to 3 dimensions of sustainable development, namely the economic dimension, the social dimension, and the environmental dimension. The activities of the conference is attended by delegations from 91 countries representing senior official figures from the United Nations, the World Health Organization, senior clerics from muftis, ministers and public figures, as well as a group of religious leaders and representatives of the fatwa houses around the world.